On my birthday, my husband introduced me to a 5-year-old black child, and my world stopped. I thought the worst part of my 34th birthday would be pretending to smile through another quiet dinner with my husband, forcing enthusiasm I didn't feel, making small talk when our marriage had become mostly silence punctuated by occasional necessary conversations. But nothing, absolutely nothing, could have prepared me for the moment David walked through our front door that evening, holding the hand of a little black girl, about 5 years old, with the most beautiful, wide, innocent brown eyes I'd ever seen. My breath froze in my chest. My hands started trembling so badly I had to grip the back of the dining room chair to stay upright. And for a moment, the entire room went completely silent. No sound, no movement, just the three of us frozen in a tableau that felt like my entire life shattering into pieces I'd never be able to put back together. The little girl looked at me with pure curiosity, tilting her head slightly, her expression open and trusting in ways that made my chest ache. Behind them stood a woman I'd never seen before, black, probably in her 50s, calm and composed, deliberately avoiding meeting my gaze like she knew exactly what chaos was unfolding in my mind. My husband didn't speak, didn't explain, didn't rush to fill the horrifying silence. He just stood there holding this child's hand, watching me with an expression I couldn't read. And the truth that hit me wasn't slow or gradual. It was instant, devastating, like the world stopping in place. My birthday became the day I lost the life I thought I had, the day I discovered the secret life my husband had apparently built behind my back, the day everything I believed about my marriage revealed itself as a lie. Before I tell you what happened next, before I take you through the most emotionally devastating and ultimately beautiful night of my entire life, you need to stop right now and hit that subscribe button. Turn on notifications. Because this story, this absolutely insane, heartbreaking, shocking story, is going somewhere you will never expect. I promise you, by the end of this video, you'll be crying tears of joy instead of the tears of devastation you're probably feeling right now. So, subscribe immediately. Smash that like button, because this story needs to reach everyone who's ever felt betrayed, everyone who's ever had their world shattered, everyone who needs to know that sometimes the worst moments become the best moments. Drop a comment right now, telling me if you've ever had a birthday that changed your entire life, because this 34th birthday changed mine in ways I'm still processing months later. This channel shares real stories about real people experiencing real life-changing moments, and this is one of the most powerful stories I've ever told. So engage with this video. Like, comment, subscribe, share, because your engagement helps these stories reach people who desperately need hope. My name is Rebecca. I'm 34 years old, and 6 months ago on my birthday, my world stopped and then restarted in the most unexpected way possible. To understand what happened that night, you need to understand the context of my marriage. My husband David and I had been married for 9 years, together for 12. We'd met in our early 20s, fallen in love fast and hard, gotten married young with all the optimism and certainty that comes with being 25 and thinking you've found your person forever. For the first few years, our marriage was good. Not perfect. No marriage is. But solid and loving and full of the kind of comfortable intimacy that comes from really knowing someone. But about 3 years ago, things started changing. David became more distant, more distracted, spending longer hours at work, coming home exhausted and uncommunicative. We stopped having the long conversations that used to fill our evenings, stopped making love with any regularity, stopped planning for our future in concrete ways. We'd always said we wanted children eventually, but that conversation kept getting pushed further into an undefined someday that felt increasingly like never. I'd brought up my concerns multiple times, asked if something was wrong, if he was unhappy, if our marriage was okay. And every time David would reassure me that everything was fine, that work was just stressful, that he was tired but still committed to us. But the distance kept growing. The silence kept expanding. And over the past year especially, I'd started to suspect something worse than work stress was happening. If you're already hooked on this story, hit that like button right now and leave a comment saying, "birthday shock," so I know you're invested in finding out what happens. I'd started noticing small things that made me anxious. David being protective of his phone in ways he'd never been before. taking calls in other rooms, being vague about his schedule, coming home later than his work hours would explain. All the classic signs that relationship articles and advice columns tell you to watch for. All the red flags that suggest infidelity. I'd never found concrete proof. No explicit texts. No strange receipts. No lipstick on his collar or perfume that wasn't mine. But the emotional distance combined with the secretive behavior had convinced me that David was probably having an affair. I'd spent months living with this gnawing anxiety, this certainty that my husband was cheating, but without proof solid enough to confront him. My 34th birthday fell on a Saturday. I'd hoped David would make plans, a nice dinner out, maybe a small gift, some acknowledgement that this day mattered. But the morning came and went with just a distracted, happy birthday before he left the house saying he had some errands to run. I spent the day alone, trying not to feel sorry for myself, trying not to spiral into thoughts about my failing marriage. By evening, I'd resigned myself to another quiet night. David had texted saying he'd be home around 7 with a surprise. I assumed he meant takeout from my favorite restaurant, or maybe flowers he'd picked up at the grocery store. Low-effort gestures that would technically count as acknowledging my birthday without requiring actual thought or planning. I was in the dining room setting the table when I heard David's key in the lock at 7:15, heard the door open, heard his footsteps, and then heard other footsteps, smaller, lighter, accompanied by the sound of a child's voice asking a question I couldn't make out. My stomach dropped. Why would David have a child with him? We didn't have children. None of our friends had young kids. My brain couldn't process why there would be a child's voice in my house. I walked into the living room, and that's when I saw them. David standing just inside the door, still wearing his jacket, holding the hand of a little black girl who couldn't have been more than 5 years old. She was beautiful, deep brown skin, hair in neat cornrows with colorful beads, wearing a pink dress and light-up sneakers, looking around our living room with wide-eyed curiosity. Behind them stood a black woman I'd never seen before, middle-aged, dressed professionally, carrying a folder, her expression carefully neutral. Subscribe to this channel right now because what I'm about to describe, my absolute terror and confusion, leads somewhere you won't believe. "Rebecca," David said, his voice strange and tight. "This is Maya, and this is Ms. Johnson from the adoption agency." The words hit me like physical blows. Adoption agency. This little girl was from an adoption agency, which meant, what? That David had adopted a child without telling me? That he'd been going through an adoption process behind my back? That this 5-year-old was supposed to be ours? None of it made sense. None of it was possible. You can't adopt a child without your spouse knowing. The agency would require both partners to be involved. So what was happening? Was this child David's biological daughter from an affair? Was Ms. Johnson here to facilitate some kind of custody arrangement? Was my worst nightmare David's infidelity? Even worse than I'd imagined because it had produced a child? "I don't understand," I managed to say, my voice coming out choked and weak. "What's happening? Who is this?" David's eyes filled with tears. "Can we sit down? I need to explain everything, but first..." He looked down at Maya, his expression softening in ways I'd never seen. "Maya, this is Rebecca. She's the person I've been telling you about." Maya looked up at me with those enormous brown eyes and gave me a shy smile. "Hi," she said quietly. "You're really pretty. David said you would be." My heart was breaking and melting simultaneously. This child was precious, absolutely precious. But I still had no idea why she was in my living room, or what David had been doing, or how any of this was possible. Ms. Johnson spoke for the first time. "Mrs. Davis, I know this is overwhelming. Perhaps we should sit down and let your husband explain. I'm here to facilitate and answer questions, but this is really a conversation between you and David." We moved to the living room. Maya sat between David and Ms. Johnson on the couch. I took the armchair across from them, needing distance, needing space to process whatever was about to be revealed. David took a deep breath and started talking. "Leave a comment right now telling me what you think is happening, because I guarantee you're wrong about where this goes." 6 months ago, David began, I was having lunch near my office when I saw a little girl sitting alone outside a convenience store. She was crying. She looked scared and lost. I asked if she was okay, if she needed help. She told me her foster mom was inside buying cigarettes and had told her to wait outside, but she'd been gone a long time and Maya was scared she'd been forgotten. My chest tightened. This was Maya. David was talking about the little girl sitting right here. I waited with her until the foster mother came out. And Rebecca, what I saw, the way that woman spoke to Maya, the roughness, the obvious lack of care, it broke something in me. I couldn't stop thinking about her. Couldn't stop wondering if she was safe, if anyone loved her, if she was just another kid lost in a broken system. David's voice cracked. I started researching foster care, started learning about how many children, especially Black children, spend years bouncing between homes, never finding permanent families. Started reading statistics about kids who age out of the system with no support, no family, no foundation. And I couldn't get Maya's face out of my mind. Those scared eyes. The way she flinched when her foster mother grabbed her arm. I found out which agency she was with. I called and asked about her case. They told me Maya had been in foster care since she was 2 after being removed from her biological parents due to neglect. She'd been in 4 different foster homes in 3 years. No one had tried to adopt her. She was just existing in temporary situations with people who saw her as a paycheck rather than a child who deserved love. Tears were streaming down my face now, not because of betrayal, but because of what David was describing. This precious little girl had spent most of her life unwanted, unclaimed, just surviving in a system that was supposed to protect her, but was instead just warehousing her. Hit that like button if your heart is breaking hearing this story because it gets so much more emotional from here. I started the process to become her foster parent, David continued. I know, I should have told you, should have involved you from the beginning. But Rebecca, our marriage has been struggling. We've been distant. We've stopped really talking about important things. And I was afraid if I told you I wanted to foster a child, a Black child which comes with its own complexities, you'd say no. That you'd see it as taking on too much when our relationship was already strained. That you'd think I was crazy for wanting to bring a child into a marriage that was barely functioning. So I did it alone. I went through the foster certification process by myself, told the agency I was separated from my spouse, which was technically true in emotional, if not physical terms. I became Maya's foster parent 4 months ago. She's been living with Ms. Johnson's family during the week and spending weekends with me at my brother's house. You thought I was working late or traveling for work. I was with Maya, building a relationship with her, falling completely in love with this amazing, resilient, beautiful little girl who deserves everything good in the world. My head was spinning. David hadn't been having an affair. He'd been fostering a child, secretly fostering a 5-year-old girl who'd been abandoned by the system. All the secretive behavior, the distance, the phone calls in other rooms, it had been about Maya. About court dates and social worker visits and building a relationship with a traumatized child who needed stability and love. 2 weeks ago, David said, Maya's biological parents' rights were officially terminated. She became legally free for adoption, and I started adoption proceedings, which is when the agency told me I couldn't complete the adoption as a single person when I'm actually married, that I needed to either involve you or get divorced. So I had to make a choice. Lose Maya or tell you the truth and risk you saying no. David was crying openly now. I brought her here tonight because it's your birthday, and because I'm hoping the best gift I could give you, and the best gift you could give Maya and me, is becoming a family. I'm asking you, Rebecca, to meet this incredible little girl and consider opening your heart and our home to her permanently. I'm asking you to adopt Maya with me. The room was completely silent except for the sound of both of us crying. Maya was looking between us with confused concern, clearly not understanding why the adults were so emotional. Ms. Johnson sat quietly, giving us space for this moment. Subscribe right now and turn on notifications because what Rebecca decides next will absolutely shock you. I looked at Maya, really looked at her, saw the beautiful, hopeful, slightly scared little girl who'd been unwanted for most of her short life, who'd been bounced between homes, who'd never had stability or safety or unconditional love, who'd found David by chance and had been given a glimpse of what family could be, and I felt my heart crack open. Can I talk to Maya alone for a minute? I asked quietly. David hesitated, then nodded. He and Ms. Johnson stepped into the kitchen, leaving me alone with this child I'd known for less than 10 minutes, but who'd apparently been part of my husband's life for months. I moved from the armchair to the couch, sitting where David had been. Maya, do you know why you're here? Maya nodded seriously. David said you're his wife and you live here. He said maybe I could live here too if you say yes. He said you're really nice and you'd love me if you got to know me. My throat was so tight I could barely speak. Tell me about yourself, Maya. What do you like? Maya's face lit up. I like drawing and dancing, and David reads me books before bed. He does funny voices for all the characters, and he makes really good pancakes with chocolate chips. And he says if I come live here, I could have my own room, and we could paint it any color I want, and I could have a real bed instead of sleeping on a couch. Each sentence was a knife to my heart. This child had been sleeping on a couch in foster care, had been living in situations where she didn't have her own space, had found in David someone who read to her and made her pancakes and made her feel valued. Do you want to live here with me and David? Maya nodded vigorously. David says you're the best person he knows. He says he loves you so much and he's sorry he made you sad by keeping me a secret. He says he was just scared because he loves both of us, and he didn't know how to make it work. Tears were pouring down my face. Maya, if you came to live here, what would you want me to be to you? Maya thought about this seriously. David said I could call you whatever I want. I don't have a mom. My bio mom didn't take care of me, and I don't remember her much. The foster moms were just there. They weren't real moms. But David said you could be a real mom if you wanted. Or I could call you Rebecca. Or Becca. Whatever makes you happy. If you're crying right now, hit that like button and drop a comment saying, Maya deserves everything, because this little girl is about to get the family she deserves. I pulled Maya into a hug. She stiffened for just a second, clearly not used to physical affection, then melted into me, her little arms wrapping around my waist. Maya, I would be honored to be your mom. I would be honored to have you come live here. I'm so sorry David kept you a secret, but I understand why he was scared. And I'm so grateful he found you. You are the best birthday gift I've ever received. Maya pulled back to look at me. Really? I can stay? This can be my house? Really? I said, laughing and crying simultaneously. This can be your house. Your home. Forever. Maya let out a squeal of joy and hugged me again. Can I see my room? David said there's a room that could be mine. Can we paint it purple? That's my favorite color. I called for David. He and Ms. Johnson came back into the living room. The hope and fear on David's face was almost painful to witness. David, I said, I think we need to show Maya her room so she can start planning how she wants to decorate it. David's face crumpled. He started sobbing, deep, relieved sobs that shook his whole body. He pulled both Maya and me into a hug, the three of us standing in our living room forming a family that hadn't existed 5 minutes earlier. Ms. Johnson was wiping her own eyes. I've been a social worker for 23 years, she said, and this is one of the most beautiful moments I've ever witnessed. Maya, sweetheart, you're getting the family you deserve. And Mr. and Mrs. Davis, you're getting an incredible daughter. Share this video right now with someone who needs to know that sometimes the worst moments become the best moments, because this story is proof. The next few hours were a blur of logistics and emotion. Ms. Johnson explained the adoption process, the timeline, what would need to happen legally. Maya would continue living with Ms. Johnson temporarily while the home study was completed, and I was added to all the paperwork. But she'd spend weekends with us starting immediately, transitioning gradually until the adoption was finalized and she could move in permanently. After Ms. Johnson left, the three of us sat on the couch, me, David, and Maya between us. David kept apologizing for keeping Maya a secret, for not trusting me, for thinking I'd say no. And I kept reassuring him that while I wished he'd told me sooner, I understood his fear. Our marriage had been struggling. Communication had broken down. He'd been terrified of losing Maya and hadn't known how to bridge the gap between his two worlds. Why was our marriage struggling? I asked quietly after Maya had fallen asleep on the couch between us. What happened to us, David? David took a long time to answer. I think we stopped being intentional, stopped making our relationship a priority. We got comfortable, and then comfortable became complacent, and then complacent became disconnected. And I was dealing with the emotional weight of Maya's situation, seeing this child in need, going through the foster certification process, building a relationship with a traumatized kid, and I wasn't sharing any of it with you because I'd convinced myself you wouldn't understand or wouldn't want to take this on. I should have told you from the beginning, David continued. Should have trusted you. Should have given you the chance to fall in love with Maya the way I did. Instead, I created this secret life that pushed us further apart. I'm so sorry, Rebecca. I'm sorry for the distance. I'm sorry for the lies by omission. I'm sorry for making you think I was having an affair when I was actually just trying to save a little girl. Subscribe to this channel if you believe in second chances and families built on love rather than biology. I forgive you, I said simply, because you didn't do this maliciously. You did it because you saw a child in need and you couldn't walk away. That's not a character flaw, David. That's beautiful. Yes, you should have told me. Yes, we need to work on our communication. But you gave me the most incredible birthday gift, a daughter I didn't know I was waiting for. Over the next 3 months, Maya gradually became part of our lives. She'd spend Friday through Sunday with us, bringing her infectious joy and curiosity into our home. We painted her room purple with clouds on the ceiling. We filled it with books and toys and art supplies. We established routines: Saturday morning pancakes, Sunday evening movie nights, bedtime stories every night. We learned her triggers from trauma. Loud noises scared her. She hoarded food in her room because she'd been hungry in previous placements. She had nightmares about being abandoned. And slowly, carefully, with patience and consistency, we watched Maya start to heal, start to trust that this home was permanent, start to believe she was wanted and loved, start to laugh freely and dance without self-consciousness and ask for things she needed without fear. The transformation was miraculous. The scared, timid child I'd met on my birthday became a vibrant, confident little girl who filled our house with music and art and constant questions about everything. David and I also transformed. Having Maya forced us to communicate better, to be intentional about our relationship, to work as a team. We started going to couples therapy to address the issues that had created distance between us. Started having weekly check-ins where we'd talk about our feelings and our marriage and our parenting. Started building something stronger than what we'd had before, because now we had a shared purpose, giving Maya the family she deserved. The adoption was finalized 5 months after my birthday. We stood in a courtroom with Ms. Johnson and the judge, Maya wearing a purple dress she'd picked out for the occasion. The judge asked Maya if she understood what was happening. Maya nodded seriously and said, "I'm getting a forever family. David and Becca are my real parents now, and nobody can take me away." The judge declared the adoption final, and we became officially, legally, permanently, a family. Leave a comment saying family if you believe that family is defined by love, not biology, because that's what this story proves. That was 3 months ago. Maya is now officially Maya Davis. She calls David Dad and me Mama Becca, which makes my heart melt every single time. She's thriving, doing well in kindergarten, making friends, slowly letting go of survival behaviors as she realizes this home is permanent. She still has hard days when trauma surfaces, when she's scared we'll leave her, when she needs extra reassurance. But more and more, the hard days are outnumbered by joyful ones. My 34th birthday started as what I thought would be the worst day, another marker of a failing marriage, another year of disappointment and distance, but it became the best day of my life. The day I met my daughter. The day my marriage was saved by a little girl who needed us as much as we needed her. The day I learned that sometimes what looks like betrayal is actually love in disguise. People ask me if I'm angry about how it happened, if I resent David for keeping Maya a secret for months. And honestly, I'm not angry. Yes, I wish he'd told me sooner. Yes, we should have gone through the foster and adoption process together from the beginning. But I also understand that fear and poor communication can make people do things that seem inexplicable from the outside. David wasn't trying to hurt me. He was trying to save a child while protecting himself from potential rejection. It wasn't the right choice, but it came from love rather than malice. And the result, Maya being our daughter, is so overwhelmingly right that the path we took to get here matters less than where we ended up. We're a family, imperfect, still healing, still learning, but real and committed and full of love. Maya has parents who adore her. David and I have the daughter we didn't know we were supposed to have. Our marriage is stronger than it's been in years because we're united in our purpose and we've learned how to actually communicate. If this story touched your heart, if it made you believe in second chances and unexpected blessings, do me a huge favor right now. Hit that like button, subscribe to this channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss these powerful real-life stories. Leave a comment telling me about a time when something that seemed terrible turned out to be a blessing. Share this video with someone who needs hope, who's going through a difficult time, who needs to know that sometimes the moments that break us actually remake us into something better. The night I met Maya, my world stopped. Everything I thought I knew about my life and my marriage shattered in an instant. I thought I was discovering David's betrayal. Thought I was learning about an affair that had produced a child. Thought my birthday was the day my marriage officially ended. Instead, it was the day everything began. The day I met my daughter. The day my family became complete. The day I learned that love isn't limited by biology. That family is built through choice and commitment. That the most beautiful things often come from the most unexpected places. Maya is sleeping in her purple room right now as I record this. Her room with the clouds on the ceiling and the bookshelf overflowing with stories and the art supplies she uses to create masterpieces she proudly displays on our refrigerator. Her permanent room in her forever home with her forever family. And tomorrow morning she'll wake up and run into our bedroom like she does every weekend, jumping on our bed and demanding pancakes and asking a million questions about everything under the sun. And David and I will make her chocolate chip pancakes and answer her questions and feel grateful for the unexpected gift that saved our marriage and made our family complete. Thank you for watching this story. Thank you for being here. Thank you for engaging with these real, raw, emotional journeys people share. Hit that like button one more time. Subscribe if you haven't. Turn on notifications. Leave a comment. Share this video. And remember, sometimes the worst birthday surprises become the best blessings. Sometimes what looks like betrayal is actually love. Sometimes the moment your world stops is actually the moment everything finally starts making sense. My name is Rebecca, and my 34th birthday gave me the greatest gift I've ever received, my daughter Maya. And that's a story worth celebrating. The end.